Hello my friends, I am still struggle bussing with the sound. I think it's the camera rather than the microphone, which is really sad because the camera is much more expensive than the microphone. So I'm filming this now. Hopefully the sound is going to be okay. Lee had a little bit of a play around with it, so I guess that we shall see. But I am here with your recaps for SUNREACH and REDAWN, which are the first two novellas in the Skyward Flight. These are the ones that you want to read or remind yourself of before reading Cytonic. So I'm going to give you a recap of those two in this video, and then the next video in this series will be a recap of Cytonic and possibly Eversure as well, depending on how long the Cytonic video ends up being. Maybe I'll just do Eversure as a separate short video, but we'll get to that in due course. We're starting off with SUNREACH. Hopefully these are a little bit shorter than the full-length novels, but as you know, they are pretty long for novellas anyway. As usual, this is full spoilers, so if you have not read SUNREACH or REDAWN, then please don't watch this. It's going to fully spoil the entire story. So we start off with SUNREACH, in which we follow FM, and we start off at the battle from the end of Starsight, where the Delver appears. FM is struggling with the losses from battle generally, and this battle in particular. She then meets up with Jurgen and the Tanix he has found, and he's struggling to keep them contained. Ned and Arturo are also there. Cobb and Rig tell them all that they are hyperdrives, but they don't know why there are different colours of Tanix. Cobb orders Rig, Jurgen and FM to figure out how the Tanix work, and FM is going to try to keep track of them and find them again when they disappear, which they keep doing. Jurgen isn't very gentle with the Tanix, but tries to hum back at them to get some kind of reaction, first out loud and then with his mind. The black and red Tanix explodes by sending a pulse of some kind out of itself, which cuts Jurgen. They name that Tanix Boomslug. A message is received from Kuna offering allyship and asking for help, and saying that they are trapped on the planet SUNREACH. Jurgen's mum, Jeshua Waite, wants to transition to political negotiations with the superiority. Cobb still thinks the focus needs to be on escape with the help of the Tanix. Either way, they need to know more about Cytonics, and so they decide to wake up Arlenique. FM and Jurgen go to speak with Arlenique once she's brought out of her induced coma. They are starting to make progress, and Arlenique particularly highlights that the superiority can't be trusted. Things deteriorate though when Jeshua comes in and demands Arlenique tell them everything they need to know. Arlenique places a message in Jurgen's brain and then jumps herself away. The message was that he is powerful and shouldn't allow himself to be used. Part of the group's experiments include putting a couple of Tanix in a box made from the same material as M-Bot. FM finds the box has moved with the Tanix inside. While discussing the platforms and what Rig is doing to try and get FTL communications working, it comes out that Rig likes FM, and that's why he's been avoiding her and doesn't talk to her much. They find the FTL communicator and discover it needs a Tanix to work. After some discussion, they realise that Jurgen had scared Boomslug into using its power by showing it the eyes in the nowhere. They are able to replicate this with yellow Tanix to get them to hyperjump, but using the box made of M-Bot materials, they can get the Tanix to jump and take Jurgen with them. They decide to try using ships. Jurgen is able to figure out how to give the Tanix a location to jump to, but it needs to be somewhere he can see or is familiar with and able to visualise. When he did this though, the superiority Cytonics hear it, so they start to attack detritus. It looks like they've decided the time has come to destroy the planet. FM and Rig share an aircraft with the aim for her to get him in close to the Superiority carrier ship so that Rig can try to see how their FTL communications work. They're able to achieve this, but Skyward Flight gets locked off detritus when engineering finally managed to get the rubble belt into shield position to protect the planet. Skyward Flight are going to wait for the Tanix to calm down, and then Jurgen will try to get them to jump in past the barrier, which they eventually do successfully. FM starts trying to train the Tanix to hyperjump on command using the phrase home. Defiance managed to get the communication working, and Kuna asks for help as they're under superiority attack on SUNREACH. They send their coordinates to Jurgen via the communication Tanix, and Skyward Flight go to help them. When Skyward Flight arrives at SUNREACH, the superiority start to attack. Jurgen's ship is destroyed, and one of the Tanix, Gil, that was with him, appears in FM's cabin. Gil hyperjumps her to Kuna, which is where Jurgen is too. They're going to need to abandon the rest of Skyward Flight to take Kuna and her team back to detritus, but FM realises that the Tanix want to help. She gets Jurgen to show them each of the members of Skyward Flight, and the Tanix go and get each of them and bring them there to the surface of SUNREACH. Then, just as the superiority are going to destroy the facility they're all in, FM asks the Tanix to take them home, and they do. And that is the end of SUNREACH. Moving on now to Redawn, we're following Alanik back on her home planet of Redawn. There are two political factions there: Unity, who want to hand Redawn over to the superiority, and Independence, who do not. Alanik is Independence, and they were in charge when she left Redawn, but while she was away, Unity have been voted in. The handful of Cytonics on Redawn are Unity members except for Alanik, who is the only Cytonic who can hyperjump. Unity are trying to take all Independence members into custody to hand over to the superiority. So Alanik contacts Jurgen cytonically. Now that the detritus shields are up, she needs a key to hyperjump there. She gets this from Jurgen and goes to the humans for help. The politicians on detritus don't want to help because they don't want to make more of an enemy out of the superiority and think there is still a prospect of an alliance there. Cobb thinks that they should help, but tells Skyward Flight that he can't order them to go and help, even though he thinks that they should. Jurgen doesn't get it at first, but it is clear that Skyward Flight won't be punished if they do go and help, so they will. As they're leaving, Jeshua, Jurgen's mum, tries to stop them, saying they'll be guilty of defection if they leave and will be court-martialed. They go anyway. On Redawn, there is a battle to rescue the trapped Independence fighters and people. This is successful, but Cobb has sent a message to say that Skyward Flight will indeed be court-martialed if they return, and the Council have made contact with the superiority. So the Erdale would likely be used as bargaining chips back on detritus too. Going back there isn't an option. So Skyward Flight and Independence take shelter in an area that is accessible only by hyperjump. Since none of the other Erdale Cytonics can jump, the Unity forces won't be able to get to Skyward Flight or Independence. Jurgen uses his radio to listen to a Unity announcement. One of the Independence leaders, Rinakeen, who was captured earlier, is speaking in support of Unity. Alanik says he must be being forced in some way, and so they need to rescue him. They want to work on getting the ship they're currently hiding on back up and running. For that, they're going to need Rig, so FM and Alanik go to get him. While there, Cobb sees them and tries to bring them in. He's acting quite strangely. FM, Alanik and Rig flee back to Redawn. Rig is able to get the ship's shields up, the hyperdrive working, and the defence systems online with the help of Boomslug. Skyward and Independence go to try to rescue Rinakeen. A fight ensues. Rinakeen is not Rinakeen after all, but rather a Dione who is using a holographic projector to appear as him. They must have got this technology when they took Mbot apart. Eventually, though, Alanik finds the real Rinakeen and he helps them win the fight and form a proper alliance between the Erdale and the humans. Cobb calls Jurgen and orders him to come back to detritus. He's still acting strangely, and Arlenique checks in on Gran and finds that she's been taken to the superiority by Jeshua. Jurgen tries to speak with his mum, but she won't listen to him and doesn't believe there's anything wrong with Cobb. Arlenique thinks it might be another Dione in disguise. She and Jurgen go to check, and sure enough, it isn't really Cobb, it is a Dione in disguise. So Arlenique and Jurgen go with some Tanix to try to rescue Gran, Cobb and Jurgen's parents. While there, Arlenique discovers that the superiority have set up a gun to destroy the ship and everyone on it. Arlenique finds Gran, Cobb and Kuna. She disengages the inhibitor and Gran jumps away with Cobb. Arlenique takes Kuna to Redawn. Arlenique goes back to try and help Jurgen, but his parents are trapped and can't be saved. Jeshua tells Jurgen to go and to do better than she did. Arlenique takes Jurgen back to Redawn by slug. She hears screaming in the nowhere as they go. And that is the end of Redawn. So those were the 2 novellas to read before Cytonic. So the next video will be the Cytonic recap, followed by, either in the same video or potentially in a separate one, the Evershore recap, and then we'll be ready to go for Defiant, which is out in just a couple of weeks. So hopefully this has been helpful, and that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks, bye!